An intrepid team of explorers descend into a lost world. Among the very first to probe the mysteries of an unexplored labyrinth.
We have to be very careful that we don't go beyond a point where we cannot get back.
This place we're looking at here, maybe a dozen other people have been to in the world. It's like an opportunity to be an astronaut and go to the moon.
But in their search to understand its secrets, they might have pushed themselves too far.
Better make a move.
In the back of my head was, okay, how are we going to get him out of this cave?
Jed.
The Chinese call them Tiankang. Giant holes in the ground, hundreds of meters wide, and big enough to contain unexplored subterranean forests. These are literal freaks of nature.
Little hole in there.
Yeah.
How they formed and why here remains a mystery.
It takes my breath away when I first see it. Anything it's just so big.
Tiankang dominate this one small corner of China. What is puzzling scientists is that there are more here than anywhere else on Earth. And they don't know why.
We didn't even know that these massive sinkholes existed until about 10 years ago.
Darrell Granger is a cave geologist, and he has come to China to unpick this geological puzzle.
It's a canyon then.
He's assembled an all-star team to embark on this expedition into the heart of a Tiankang. He's brought in biologists and cave explorers to help build one of the most comprehensive surveys of a Tiankang ever attempted.
It's just putting together a big jigsaw puzzle, really.
But for Darrell, his aim is clear.
So the mission for me as a geologist is to try to figure out how these Tiankang form. Why are there these giant holes in the landscape here? And why are there so many in this part of China?
He's got a hunch why. He's putting his reputation on the line. He's never been to this region before. Everything he knows about Tiankang has been gleaned from the few scientific papers that exist. He's hoping that by getting up close and personal with the rocks here, he's going to turn his hunch into fact. If he's right, it will be the start of a 10-year project to map and survey the whole region. If he's wrong, it'll be back to the drawing board. To crack this puzzle of how Tiankang form and why so many are crammed into this one remote area of China, they have to head underground into a network of giant caves that few have dared to penetrate. But first, they need big picture data on the entire landscape. Darrell is using aerial technology to give him the upper hand. He's brought in specialist Simon Westmore to conduct an aerial survey of the region.
There are these giant sinkholes, and there are only a few around the world. But most of them are right here in this small part of China, this bullseye almost. So that's why we want to fly around here and see what we can learn about maybe how these Tiankang formed. Why are they here?
But flying in this region is risky.
There's nowhere to land. If we have an engine failure, it's definitely a problem. And in sort of normal aviation, you just wouldn't take off under those conditions, but this isn't normal aviation, so.
Okay?
Yeah.
Right, starting the engine now, and then we'll send her up in the wing.
Yeah. It's an amazing opportunity. What we're going to see when we get up there it's epic.
Yep. 3, 2, 1.
This strange landscape that was virtually unknown to science less than 10 years ago is now the new frontier of geology, waiting to be explored and explained. view from the air gives Daryl and the team a true sense of the scale of this place and what they're up against.
It's fair to say it's the most dangerous flight that we've ever done and will ever do. For me, that was about as intense as it could really have been.
Simon will continue the aerial survey while the expedition heads underground. From here on in, they'll be on foot. Zhang Hai was among the first scientists to discover Tian Kung and is vital to the expedition.
The first time to discover this kind of landform, it's amazing, I think.
We're going to be relying on his expertise to show us some of the details of the landscape there and to take us to these caves.
Zhang Hai wants to show Daryl an amazing place beneath their feet that he thinks will help Daryl understand how Tian Kung form.
Look at that wind.
Yeah.
You can see
That's
all the
Mao Zedong.
all the bamboo leaves moving around. Oh, there's.
Right.
Mao Zedong is a giant underground cavern that opens up to the surface, which means this is a Tian Kung in the making.
It's really sobering when you realize that the area that you walked up to the cave, it's nothing but an open cavity right below you. So you have no idea that you've been standing on just a shelf of rock. So that is 260 meters down?
260 meters down the rock supply, and another 150 meters to the river.
That's a lot of the way down. So Mao Zedong is this sinkhole. It's almost 400 meters deep. That's crazy.
The plan is for Daryl and Zhang Hai to drop down partway into Mao Zedong to get close up to the cave walls.
So it gives us this really cool opportunity to check out a cave that's actually collapsing right now and forming one of these Tian Kung. Rock! Oh. Yeah, it's a long ways down there. Yeah.
Wait a minute, wait for me.
Okay. Wow. That is so far down.
Yeah.
This rock is just shattered.
Yeah, we go down more to have a look more.
Okay.
Once in, Daryl spots the reason this cave is so immense.
Huh. Yeah, so this is such a big cavern.
Yeah.
But you look at these little fractures and you think this whole cave started maybe from these little fractures. Just the water starts going through the little fractures and it expands and gets bigger and bigger. You know, it only takes, a millimeter, a fraction of a millimeter to turn into a big cave.
So this Mao Zedong were getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
To be a Tian Kung finally.
If we could come back in 10,000 years, it'd be 180 meters across at the top too, Mao Zedong it's a geological snapshot. It gives us the little moment in geologic time when the cave just kisses the surface and opens up and touches the sky.
Daryl has got his first clue to how Tian Kung form.
As soon as I got to this landscape, one of the first things that I noticed is how fractured the rock is. You get all of these X fractures everywhere. Look, here's a rock. This is exactly what happens in the cave. Right? Any one of these rocks you can pull out. So there's one, there's one, there's one, and there's one. And you see what happens when you get at least 3 of these. It's unstable. I can just walk right up to the wall and pull it out. So if this is up in the ceiling in Mao Zedong, there's nothing really to hold it in there. What happens is it just falls right down. So yeah, so what we can see in any one of these rocks, you can also see on the scale of a Tiancang. And that, to me, was a big clue that maybe this was important for Tiancang Formation.
The rocks in this corner of Guangxi, China, are made from limestone, and cave geologist Darrell Granger knows there is something that is common to nearly all limestone landscapes.
Every bit of this landscape has been shaped by water. Limestone is special. It just dissolves away. It doesn't leave sediment behind. Just wherever the rain falls on it and the rivulets flow and the streams flow, the rock dissolves, so it's all slowly dissolving away.
What this means is that rivers here often plunge underground, which is one reason why this part of China is so riddled with gigantic caves. As fractured rock falls from the ceilings of chambers like Mao Zedong, they are dissolved and carried away by underground rivers, allowing the chamber to grow bigger and bigger. Darrell has the how, but not the why. He holds 2 pieces of the puzzle: water and fractured limestone rock. But these conditions both exist in abundance all over the world. Why there are so many Tiancang in this small portion of the globe is the big question. Darrell knows there must be something else going on here, something that makes this region so special. Now Zhang Hai is leading the team to Heidong Cave, 5 kilometers of tough and difficult passage. The cave opens out to the virtually unexplored Bandong Tiancang. Here the team will set up base camp on the forest floor, from where they can press further into the system. Bandong is just part of a huge subterranean labyrinth, and Zhang Hai believes it has everything the team need to work out how Tiancang form and to search for clues as to why there are so many mega caves and Tiancang here in southwest China. For scientists on board the expedition, this is an amazing chance to see what secrets the Tiancang forest might reveal.
因为呢，现在我们走的这些地方都是已经被破坏了，但是半洞天坑可能是一种接近原始的一种森林，所以就是我很兴奋，能够希望在这个考察会发现一些有意思的植物。
After a trek through the rugged terrain, they eventually reach the mouth of the cave complex.
Oh, it's nice to get in a cave, finally. Woo. Feel that breeze. Cool.
The plan is to make base camp at the far end of the passage.
Big.
It means a lot to me to be on an expedition like this. It's really quite an amazing opportunity to get to
look at the habitat that these unique cave species live in.
For me as a caver, I really love getting underground. In some ways, it's just like, it's a feeling of being at home.
Expeditioner Jed Campion now has to be completely switched on. Getting the team safely through the passage to base camp is his responsibility.
We were able to bring that technical expertise to the expedition to get the scientists into the cave. Their job is to focus on the science, but our job is really to focus on the safety of the rigging of the ropes, the safety of the passage through the cave, which is very dangerous.
The expedition encounters strange landforms deep in the cave.
Listen to this.
Music.
Yeah, it's like music. Cool. It's really beautiful, just to listen to it. It's a musical stalagmite. Every little drop of water that's coming from the ceiling has a little bit of calcium in it, and then the calcium turns back into rock. So wherever that rock hits and splashes out, it leaves behind a little bit of rock over thousands of years. Okay, well, let's keep moving. It's time to move towards camp. We got to camp late that night, set up our tents in the dark, and it wasn't then until sunrise the next morning that you realize exactly where you are, and you can start seeing the sunlight beaming down through the Tiancong, lighting up the back of the cave. A really special place that not many people have gone.
This place we're looking at here, maybe a dozen other people have been to in the world. It's like an opportunity to be an astronaut and go to the moon.
It's really exciting to be here and see the Tiancong for the first time myself. They're almost bigger than you can imagine.
You feel you're far from the noise society, and you feel quiet and primitive.
That's Bandung. Bandung Tiancong.
Time is limited in the Tiancong. The scientists only have 4 days to conduct their survey before they must leave. They have to be entirely self-sufficient while they're here. Resupplying their camp isn't an option. The plan is now for the team to separate. Jean and Shu will begin their search for potential new species that might inhabit the Tiancong forest, while Daryl leads an expedition deeper into the system. His objective is Mawang Dong, a true giant of a cave on the far side of the Tiancong. For Daryl and the team, crossing the Tiancong floor is easier said than done. It's deceptively tough work.
The Tiancong, when you look down on it, you see a jungle. You think that, oh, it's just a nice hilly surface. But underneath that jungle, you've got nothing but big boulders where the rocks are rolling underneath your feet. Some of them are enormous. And then they've got these slippery trees and vines and thorns growing all over them. In some cases, we were just going right along the top of a big cliff that would fall off down below us. So it was pretty treacherous, way more than it looked. So the whole floor of this Tiancong is just made of this rubble. It sure makes it hard to walk on, though. Yeah.
The isolation from the surface means that animals and plants can exist on the Tiancong floor with virtually no human interference. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for a biologist.
It's really unusual to have something so remote and so wild, very close, yet so inaccessible to the surface. It represents like a new world almost, something new for scientific exploration, and that's something that really interests me. Oh, nice. This is an amazing, really long hammerhead worm. Beautiful creature. A big hammerhead sort of shape to it. It's got stripes down its body, and it's something that's common in a moist forest floor. So it could be especially unique to the Tiancong because it's so moist down here compared to on the surface.
Daryl and the team have managed to cross the Tiancong forest floor.
The entrance to Mawang Dong there was even bigger than when we came out of Heidong. Made it look almost like a cathedral with the vertical walls and that arched ceiling. A very, very beautiful setting. It's hard to describe how big that cave was.
You only slowly begin to realize the dimensions of that entrance. At one time, it even appeared to have its own cloud system in there. There was a moisture that was rising And it gave it that feeling of having its own sort of climate. It's an absolutely immense feature.
The towering walls of Mawangdong are a crucial piece in the Tian Kung jigsaw for Darryl.
Now this cave, I think, qualifies as enormous. So both of the walls here are perfectly vertical. It's really tall. It's perfectly straight, so this is clearly a fracture-controlled passage.
Definitely.
We had a big river flowing through this cave.
An ancient river carved a passage out of the shattered limestone. Two massive faults dictated the route the river took, and where they crossed was their weakest point.
So it's almost like we have one cave coming in here, we've got another one coming in there,
Yeah.
and they meet right at the point, and that's where the Tian Kung forms. Okay, so if we think about how Tian Kung are formed, you've got a rolling landscape on the top, and then we get caves that are way down below. These caves have rivers in them. That's how they form. The caves will occasionally get an enlarged roof like this. They're going to start breaking down. Now, the rocks are intensely fractured, and we get the fractures that are happening in these X patterns that we've talked about. And we've also got vertical joints in the rock. So over time, what happens is, when you open up the cave, this block right here will fall down into the river. It's dissolved and then gradually carried out in solution. Then another one will fall in, and another one, until the cave gradually enlarges and it starts growing upwards. So the beginning of Tian Kung formation might look something like this, where you've got the cave getting larger and larger, but growing vertically along these joints. If we come back at a later stage, the Tian Kung is just kissing the top surface. That's when you get a skylight. So this is like Mao Chi-dong, where we hung on ropes right there, way up 400 meters above the cave floor. Eventually, the last rocks fail, and we're left with an open Tian Kung with these vertical sides, very, very deep, that goes into a cave. There's going to be a cave coming in and a cave leading out. I think we have a pretty good picture of how this Tian Kung formed.
Knowing how Tian Kung form is one thing, but there is another big mystery still baffling scientists. Of the 75 known Tian Kung on Earth, all but 25 are in this one corner of southwest China. No one yet knows why. Darryl wants to know when the caves in this region of China started to form. Understanding this will help him put another piece of the jigsaw in place. Now he's on the search for evidence. Meanwhile, botanist Xu searches the Tian Kung forest floor, hoping for discoveries of his own.
我认为这个物种，首先它可能是这个地方特有的，甚至有可能就是这个天坑这个区域特有，因为外面的植被破坏了，它喜欢那种神经可能已经丧失了，所以它可能就只能够生存在这个地方。这个甚至这些也可能就是它的结遗，就是它存留下来的一些，就是给这个动物可能是给它了一个避难所的。说这够了。
Xu will take the sample back to his lab for analysis. If he's right, then this is one new addition to our knowledge of life on Earth. Back at Mawangdong, Darryl and Zhang Hai are on the search for a mineral which holds the secret to how old these caves and Tian Kung are.
If you have an underground river, a lot of times you have quartz that's left behind by that river. It can be left there for millions and millions of years. It's like a little clock. It's got a clock inside set by nuclear reactions. So I can take that quartz, take it to my lab where we can actually read the clock and we can tell how long it's been since that was brought underground. And that gives us a time scale for cave formation and a time scale for Tiancong collapse.
The hunt for quartz is on, but finding it won't be easy, and time in the Tiancong is limited.
It looks like there might be quartz in there.
Yeah, from
Yeah, in the silt size fraction.
yeah.
Yeah? So this is worth a shot.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to tell. Maybe I can taste it and see. Oh. Yeah, so there's not much quartz in there.
Not much quartz.
There's a lot of clay.
A lot of clay
and calcite.
No.
Yeah. What it tastes like, so if you've got quartz in there, you don't taste it, but if there's quartz in there, it's very gritty. Quartz is a hard mineral. If it's a lot of clay, which is what I just put in my mouth, then it's very creamy, and it just tastes like you got a mouthful of mud. It's really pretty nasty. But it's a good, quick way to find out if you've got some quartz in there. I'm sure my dentist would not approve of this method of mineral identification.
Darrell's search for quartz has so far turned up nothing. The expedition prepare for night in the Tiancong.
Caving is really unique. In addition to just the whole exploration thing, there is a lot of relationships that are built, and that are built pretty strongly, because there's situations where you're spending 24/7 with somebody, you're camped underground, you're all relying on the same resources, you're all basically eating out of the same food bowl. There's somebody that might be rigging a rope that you're rappelling on, so you have this issue of you could really say life and death. You're putting your life in somebody else's hands. And I think for that reason you wind up building bonds that are very deep and meaningful.
Jean probes further back into the passage as she enters what cave biologists call the dark zone. It's pitch black and devoid of any sunlight.
This is a pretty extreme environment, actually, for a species to live in, because it's got so little energy. For a species to survive there, it really has to be specially adapted for that environment. So this here is a cave-adapted shrimp, and it's fully cave-adapted. It's a full troglobite. It's got no pigment whatsoever, no eyes. Matter of fact, you can see right through its body. You can see the body is totally translucent, and we're actually seeing its internal organs. Another reason we know it's cave-adapted is because the antennae are so long, almost 2 times as long as the body of the animal itself, and that's something that you'd never see in a surface species. Also, its pinchers are very elongate, much more thin and fragile than you would see in a surface species. So all of these are characteristics that you see across all animal taxa.
This is known as convergent evolution, where animals even from different species will develop similar characteristics as they adapt to the cave environment. At the other end of the cave passage, Darrell continues his hunt for quartz, but his time in the Tiancong is running out. Then, his luck appears to change.
This is exactly what I'm looking for to try to date this cave. I can't tell quite yet. It looks like this is mostly limestone, and I need the mineral quartz, which is not in limestone. But I'm looking. One way you can tell is to scrape it with a knife. Yeah, so the knife scratched it. So that means it's softer than the knife, and that tells me it's calcite. So calcite is softer than the knife, quartz is harder than the knife. Looks like they're all calcite.
The limited supplies of food and water mean that the expedition have to leave the Tiancong today. It's another setback for Darrell. Without quartz, he can't begin to date the caves in this region. But there's one place that they haven't yet explored, which could be a crucial piece of evidence for Darrell.
Oh, look at that cave.
An almost inaccessible cave halfway up the wall of the Tiancong.
So you've got to be at least 100 meters.
The reason the cave is so high in the cliff, Darrell thinks, is due to huge forces in the Earth's crust, which are pushing the land upwards. It's known as tectonic uplift.
We've learned a lot about how these caves form. One of the really important characteristics is the fractures. You also have to have tectonic uplift so that you can make a hole for the rocks to collapse into. If you don't have a really big cave, you can't have a really big Tian Kong. And there's the cave.
If Daryl can find quartz in this cave, not only can he calculate how old the cave is, he can measure the speed of uplift in this part of China, which will help him answer big questions about how the planet works.
The fact that this cave is way up in the cliff. The cave didn't form in the middle of the cliff. It formed down at the bottom where the river was flowing. So that tells us that the river used to be up at that level. As a geologist, that's really exciting because it gives us a picture of the past. So we can learn about how the cave formed, but we can also learn about the tectonic uplift rate in this part of China. The river would have started near the top, and then over time, it cut down nearly 100 meters.
Yeah, with the tectonic uplift.
With the tectonic uplift, that's the key. That's how we get to Tian Kong. Here, in this part of China, is we've got the tectonic uplift that helps drive the river incision and form these gigantic caves.
This cave, suspended high in the wall of the Tian Kong, is like a snapshot of when it was still young and a river flowed through it. If they can find quartz there, Daryl can get a fix on when these massive caves began to form and how fast the land here is rising. But access to the cave will be far from easy.
We had to think about how the best way of approaching that feature was. A lot of these distances are immense, and the issues of getting across really is a logistical nightmare. What we decided to do was access it from the top of the Tian Kong. We felt it would be a far safer way of getting into that entrance.
Daryl and the expedition team have made their way to the rim of Bandong Tian Kong. The cave has never been explored. For the entire team, this is virgin territory.
Okay, you ready for a power-up, mate?
They've called in aerial specialist Simon Westmore, who wants to trial a new piece of kit. The Octocopter, a remote-controlled hovering camera system built by Simon. It will allow Daryl to get a close-up look at the cave entrance, and he hopes will tell him whether this cave is a good candidate for quartz.
What I would like to see is get over towards the cave entrance and then sort of go down in front of those bushes that are growing in the bottom part of the cave entrance.
Okay. Right, going down.
That's what I want to check out, is underneath those boulders and see if there's any river sediment in that. Just keep on going down till you hit that face, that flat face of bedrock down at the bottom.
Okay. It's a very difficult piece of kit to fly. It doesn't matter how much experience you've got in a situation like this. Nerves are going to be there.
There's a breeze. I'll have a breeze coming out of that hole or something, boys.
Now you're very close to the cave now, I think. Back. Now you're at the cave.
Right, coming back for land, boys.
Safe, mate.
That was in the cave, man.
But it hit me. The reason you're having problems is
there's a gust coming out of that hole.
Cave, right? And that's what cavers look for when you got a big cave. Yes. We weren't able to see conclusively whether that cave went on or not. It just went into darkness. So we definitely have to get over there. But the really promising thing was, Simon was saying that it looked like there were gusts of wind blowing his remote access camera out of that cave. And that's something we look for as cave explorers, as an indicator of a big cave.
It's just what Jed wants to hear, the chance to be the first to climb down into this cave.
When you're looking over the edge, let's say, of a really big drop, you never really lose that adrenaline rush that comes to you.
But it's immediately clear this will be a tricky descent.
I think the quality of this wall is really bad, isn't it?
It's horrendous. It's too many overlaps.
We've just got to make a lot of rebelays, haven't we?
For me, the hardest thing about vertical work is the waiting, where you're just sitting around thinking about going down this massive pit. For me, at least, I get a little nervous. We have to rely on each other for our lives. When you're on rope, if somebody has rigged that incorrectly, you could die.
Okay. Okay, Daryl's going down the rope.
Once you get past the rebelays and you're just on that vertical section of rope, that's the time when you can look around and kind of enjoy the scenery. Look at the trees down below you and look over and see the cave in the other direction.
It's a very privileged feeling to be dangling on a rope like a spider with all that beneath your feet. It really is sensational.
This is great. It gives you a really great perspective on this Tian Kong and the caves leading in and out of it. Makes you feel so small dangling up there over those trees.
It's so dry in here, isn't it?
As far as Jed and Daryl know, no one has ever set foot here before.
The first time you enter an unexplored cave, you don't know what you're going to find. So you're always filled with apprehension about what lies round the next corner or what lies in the darkness that sort of beckons you on beyond.
It's all degraded flowstone. That's disappointing.
Yeah.
No sand or gravel.
Not the clues we're looking for at all.
No.
You find anything?
No.
Me neither.
Nothing at all, no. I think it's just going to finish here, actually.
Yeah.
Just all seems calcined up. Completely calcined up.
It's a very old cave.
Yeah.
We're definitely the first here, so we'll probably get to name it. What do you think?
Yeah, well, we've got to, haven't we, really, if we survey it?
Anyway, I think we'd better make a move.
Oh,
God.
You all right?
On his side. On in the recovery position. Yeah.
I've got some water if you need it.
Jed?
okay, all right, yeah.
In the back of my head was, okay, how are we going to get him out of this cave as fast as we can?
What's happening?
Oh, I just felt sick, actually.
If you have to get out on a stretcher, it can be extremely difficult, and you have to know that you can rely on these people to get you out.
I had this bloody awful stomachache. I must have just fainted, did I?
I was trying to find out if he'd ever done this before, or if Sean knew anything about this. But yeah, one of the first thoughts, of course, was for his safety.
Oh, you feel very sick.
Yeah.
He's got a stomachache.
I had this really bad stomachache.
When did it start?
Last night, yesterday.
Okay.
And I, oh.
No problem.
God, did I just
Put
faint?
your head between your knees.
I've never
just,
fainted in a cave before. Bloody hell, I don't think I've fainted before.
Take some water, yeah?
Yeah, maybe some water.
Immediately there was this concern about how we're going to get this guy out the cave, and well, for me, I said, no, I'm going to be all right, I'll be able to get out.
I think it's called Fainting Cave now.
Fainting Cave, bloody hell.
Fainting Cave's the name.
I'm sorry about that, Luke.
I stood up and I felt like I had all my faculties about me, and there was no doubt in my mind that I would be able to get out.
Fortunately, he was able to self-rescue, which made things just 100 times easier.
But I know that with the crew we had, we could have gotten him out of that cave. But it could have been a very serious situation.
It was sheer determination that got me out. I'm a very self-dependent sort of person who has been in many, many scrapes in caves and always managed to survive them.
Jed lives to fight another day. But Daryl's final shot at getting the quartz he needs has failed.
There's no evidence of river sediment at all in there. It's all just breakdown.
He knows that this is just the beginning of a long-term project for him, and he'll be back to search other caves in Tian Kung. But for now, the expedition is over.
You got to look in a lot of caves to find the right one with the sediment, and it was worth a shot. So we spent some time getting down there. If it had paid off, it would have been great. It didn't. It's a disappointment.
You got a bit of colour coming back now.
I know. I need a bit of colour. Yeah.
Some of the ideas have panned out and some of them haven't. I was hoping to find a lot more quartz sediment here.
Finding quartz would have helped Daryl work out the speed this landscape is being shoved upwards. That data will have to wait for another day. He's seen enough evidence on the ground, though, to be sure his hunch is right. The unique way that Tian Kung are clustered here jumps out to his trained eye. He thinks that there is a direct link between here and one of the most tectonically violent places on Earth, the Tibetan Plateau.
The interesting thing here is the Tibetan Plateau is very, very high. It's 5 kilometers high, and by the time we get down here, we're at sea level. You can think about it sort of like a hydraulic jack, where the weight of the Tibetan Plateau up here is pushing down on the weaker middle crust, and it's squirting in here underneath southern China. That's why this area is uplifting, is that there's a weak layer in the middle crust. The edge of the uplift from the Tibetan Plateau sort of goes around in this funny shape around the Sichuan Basin. So this area is the edge of the uplifting zone in China. And you'll see all of the Tian Kung we find are in this zone right there. And my idea here is that we're in a sweet spot for cave formation, where you've got some uplift, but it's not too fast and not too slow. The work here, even though it looks like we're just looking at Tian Kung, what we're really doing is trying to tie it into a bigger picture of the tectonics of China, a bigger picture of understanding how the collision of India into Asia has shaped the landscape of the Earth. We're looking at continental scale features, and that's a big thing, tying in these cave sediments that we find in the middle of Guangxi to the collision of India into Asia and the growth of the Himalaya and the Tibetan Plateau. So as a geologist, tying all these things together is really a thrill. It's really satisfying. These caves held a lot of time inside them. The area began uplifting millions of years ago, and these caves record that history as they're cutting deeper and deeper in the rock. We think we know so much about the surface of this planet, but to science, this is a new landform. It's a new type of landscape. So it's an exciting time as a scientist to be able to step in early in the time that we're starting to understand and explore this landscape.
So that's one Tian Kung we discovered. We did more research to find more caves, to get more evidence, such as the quartz inside the cave, to get more or good explanation of the Tian Kung evolution.
Spending this time in the Tian Kung, that's something that very few scientists have ever done. So for me to get a chance to come in and see these really amazing species right in person has been just a chance of a lifetime.
All the Tian Kungs in the world, most of them are situated right here, just within a few tens of kilometers of where we're standing. So there's something special going on here. There's just the right mix of geology. We're in a little sweet spot